For 9 years, Tesla told the world that diesel was a dead technology, that battery electric semis would make internal combustion obsolete on American highways before 2025. Diesel just posted 53.09% thermal efficiency. The FAW Jiefang J7 running a Weichai WP13H under its hood just proved every word of it wrong. Let that number land for a moment. 53.09%. The best diesel engine Cummins has ever built, the X15 refined over 3 decades, installed in hundreds of thousands of Kenworth and Peterbilt semis running every highway in America, peaks at 44%. That is not a gap. That is a canyon. For every 100 gallons of diesel burned by an American Class 8 truck. Today, the Jiefang J7 extracts the energy equivalent of 9 additional gallons energy that Detroit's engineers had officially declared physically unrecoverable. This truck does not look like a revolution. It looks like a truck. That is precisely what makes it dangerous. This is not just an engineering story. This is a logistics story, a supply chain story, a 3.5 million American trucking jobs story, and the clock is already running. To understand why this matters, you have to understand what America was promised and who was doing the promising. For 8 decades, the American freight industry ran on a simple truth. Cummins, Detroit, Diesel, and Caterpillar built the most reliable heavy-haul engines on Earth. The Kenworth T680, the Peterbilt 579, the Freightliner Cascadia. These were not just trucks. They were the circulatory system of the American economy, moving 70% of all domestic freight across 3.8 million miles of road. And at the heart of every one of them was a diesel engine that American engineers had spent generations perfecting. By the early 2020s, that engine had reached 44% thermal efficiency. The industry called it a mature technology. Some called it a ceiling. Then came 2017. Elon Musk walked onto a stage in Hawthorne, California, and announced that diesel was finished. The Tesla Semi would haul 80,000 pounds for 500 miles on a single charge-recharge faster than a fuel stop and make the internal combustion engine obsolete within a decade. The Western automotive press treated it as engineering fact. Investors treated it as inevitability. The Department of Energy began redirecting freight infrastructure funding toward megawatt charging networks that did not yet exist. The logic seemed sound. Battery costs had dropped 90% since 2012. The supercharger network had proven that charging infrastructure could scale. Why would freight be any different? Because freight is not a passenger car. 80,000 pounds is not 4,000 pounds. And a 70-minute charging stop on a regulated hours of service clock is not a fuel stop. The math was wrong from the beginning, but no one in Detroit was running the numbers on a fully loaded J7 climbing the Sierra Nevada in January. But in Shandong province, someone was. Every diesel engine wastes energy. That is not a flaw, that is physics. The Carnot cycle sets a hard limit on how much work you can extract from burning fuel heat. Escapes through the exhaust pipe, through the coolant system, through the walls of the combustion chamber. American engineers spent 30 years optimizing around this reality. High-pressure common rail injection, exhaust gas recirculation, variable geometry turbochargers. Each improvement bought fractions of a percentage point. The Cummins X15 reached 44% brake thermal efficiency, meaning 56 cents of every dollar spent on fuel was converted directly into heat and noise. The industry accepted this. Published papers called it near theoretical maximum for production diesel. Weichai did not accept it. The WP13H combines homogeneous charge compression ignition with turbo compounding a system that captures exhaust energy a second time through a power turbine connected directly to the crankshaft and a variable geometry combustion chamber that adjusts ignition geometry in real time. The result, 53.09% BTE, certified by TÜV SÜD in independent testing. Not a laboratory prototype, A production engine shipping today, installed in the FAW Jiefang J7 hauling freight across Chinese highways at scale. For every 100 gallons, an American truck burns a J7 burns 83. On a Dallas to Chicago run 925 miles, that is 47 gallons of diesel that simply do not get purchased. At current US diesel prices, that is $188 per trip. Per truck. Every trip. Here's the physics problem that the 2017 Tesla Semi reveal never addressed. Energy consumption under load is not linear. A truck carrying 80,000 pounds does not consume twice the energy of a truck carrying 40,000 pounds. On a 6% grade, it consumes 3 to 4 times more. Battery chemistry does not accommodate demand spikes without penalty. Pull maximum power from a lithium pack under sustained load, and you compress its usable range, accelerate degradation, and generate heat that the thermal management system must then spend additional energy to control. The Tesla Semi carries an estimated 900 kilowatt-hours of battery, a slab of lithium weighing over 10,000 pounds, that the truck must haul whether it needs all of that energy or not. At 80,000 pounds gross, the truck's real-world loaded range falls to 350 to 380 miles. In winter on grade with a refrigerated trailer independent fleet operators, report figures closer to 290 miles. The FAW Jiefang J7's DHT architecture solves this differently. The Weichai diesel runs within a narrow RPM band 1,200 to 1,500 RPM, where it operates at or near peak thermal efficiency. The 120 kilowatt electric motor handles torque demand spikes during grade climbing and urban start-stop cycles, which means the diesel is never forced outside its efficiency window. The result is 26 liters per 100 kilometers under full load, the energy equivalent of 0.88 kilowatt-hours per mile. The Tesla Semi consumes 1.7 kilowatt-hours per mile loaded. The J7 delivers the same freight using 48% less energy per mile. That is not an incremental improvement. That is a different category of machine. There are approximately 160,000 diesel truck stops in the United States. There are 25 Tesla Megacharger locations. That asymmetry is not a temporary condition. Building a single megawatt-capable charging station at a truck stop requires a dedicated utility transformer, a grid interconnection upgrade costing $500,000 to $2 million, and a regulatory approval timeline of 2 to 5 years. The megawatt charging standard. The protocol that would allow a Tesla Semi to charge at 3.75 megawatts and recover 70% charge in under 15 minutes has no meaningful public deployment in the United States as of mid-2026. The $7.5 billion allocated by the Department of Energy for EV charging infrastructure has directed less than 3% toward freight-capable MCS stations. A FAW Jiefang J7 stops at any of those 160,000 locations. 10 minutes. Full tank. No transformer upgrade. No utility permit. No regulatory timeline. On the I-40 corridor between Oklahoma City and Albuquerque, 540 miles, mountain grades above 7,000 feet, winter temperatures at -20 Fahrenheit. The J7 completes the run without stopping. The Tesla Semi cannot make that run without a charging stop that does not exist along that corridor. Replacing every Class 8 truck in the United States with battery electric vehicles would require approximately 175 million kilowatt-hours of battery capacity. That is 10 times the current annual global EV battery production. The lithium required does not exist in US allied supply chains. At that volume, Chile holds 55% of global reserves, Australia 30%, with the remainder concentrated in Argentina and politically complex territories. Cobalt for NMC chemistry runs 70% through the Democratic Republic of Congo. These are not supply chain risks. These are supply chain certainties. The FAW Jiefang J7 requires none of that. Its electric motor component runs on lithium iron phosphate chemistry. No cobalt, no nickel, no manganese. LFP cells are produced at scale domestically within China's supply chain, insulated from Western mineral market volatility. The diesel portion runs on a globally distributed commodity, available at every truck stop on Earth. No new mining permits, no critical mineral processing plants, no decade-long supply chain development program. The J7 does not need the world to reorganize its resource infrastructure to exist. It exists now. Tesla deserves credit for what it actually built. The Semi is the fastest Class 8 truck ever produced, 0 to 60 miles per hour, in 20 seconds at full load, a figure that took the freight industry by surprise. Regenerative braking extends brake pad life dramatically on long descents. The cab is quieter and more ergonomic than anything Detroit has offered a long-haul driver in 50 years. These are real engineering achievements, and they matter. What they do not do is move freight profitably on American highways at scale. At 80,000 pounds gross vehicle weight, the Tesla Semi's real-world range falls to 350 to 380 miles under normal conditions and closer to 290 miles in cold weather with a loaded refrigerated trailer. Against those numbers, there are 25 Megacharger locations in the United States. A 70-minute charging window on a federally regulated hours of service clock is not a competitive fuel stop. It is a forced productivity loss of nearly 1 full driving hour per charge cycle. At current trajectory, Tesla Semi has shipped fewer than 3,000 units globally through mid-2026. That is not a ramp. That is a pilot program. Freightliner's eCascadia tells a quieter version of the same story. Daimler Truck has committed more than $10 billion to electric commercial vehicle development globally, and the eCascadia represents the most serious conventional attempt at BEV freight in North America. Its EPA, rated 230 miles, drops to 150 to 170 miles under full load. Its CCS2 charging infrastructure tops out at 150 kilowatts, meaning a full recharge takes 4 to 6 hours. At $250,000 to $350,000 per unit, fleet operators are being asked to pay a 70% premium over a conventional diesel truck for a vehicle that cannot complete the routes that define American long-haul freight. And then there is Cummins. The X15 is a genuinely exceptional piece of engineering, the culmination of 30 years of refinement, trusted by fleets across North America, with a service network that reaches every corner of the country. At 44% thermal efficiency, it represents the best that American diesel engineering has produced. The FAW Jiefang J7 beats it by 9 percentage points. Not in a laboratory, on the road, in production. Today, the gap between what America is selling and what the J7 is delivering is not a product problem. It is a strategic problem, and strategic gaps at this scale do not close quietly. Cummins generates $24 billion in annual revenue. The majority of that comes from diesel engines. Packer, the parent company of Kenworth and Peterbilt, has committed its commercial vehicle future to a BEV transition that assumes charging infrastructure will arrive before the efficiency gap becomes an existential problem. Navistar, now owned by Traton, made the same bet. These are not small companies making marginal miscalculations. These are the industrial anchors of communities in Indiana, Ohio, and Tennessee places, where engine manufacturing is not a job category, but a generational identity. The tariff response is predictable and insufficient. A 100% import duty on Chinese vehicles prevents FAW trucks from entering American showrooms. It does not prevent Weichai from licensing its engine technology to a Mexican manufacturer. It does not prevent a European OEM from integrating WP13H architecture into vehicles assembled outside the tariff perimeter. Technology does not respect trade barriers the way physical goods do. The efficiency gap exists regardless of where the truck is built. The deeper problem is capital allocation. The Department of Energy has directed $7.5 billion toward EV charging infrastructure that cannot yet serve the freight routes that American commerce depends on. That money is not available to fund the combustion efficiency research that might close the 9-point BTE gap with Weichai. Every quarter that passes without a Cummins response to 53.09% is a quarter in which the J7's production numbers grow, and American fleet managers begin doing math that the tariff wall cannot interrupt. 240,000 Americans work in diesel drivetrain manufacturing. They are not being asked to retrain for jobs that exist. They are watching an efficiency race their employers entered 30 years ago and are now, for the first time, visibly losing. What happens next depends not on tariffs, but on whether American engineering culture can move faster than it has in the last 40 years. America bet on a charging network that was never built to power trucks, with range that doesn't hold under load on a timeline that is already passed. Weichai didn't win a race. It ran a different race while America was still arguing about the starting gun. The FAW Jiefang J7 is not a concept vehicle. It is not a government showcase. It is a production truck shipping today, running freight at 53.09% thermal efficiency, across highways that look exactly like the ones between Dallas and Chicago, between Los Angeles and Salt Lake City, between Detroit and the ports of New Jersey. 50,000 units are already on the road. Fleet managers in China are not waiting for a Megacharger to be permitted and installed. They are signing 7-year contracts. And 7-year contracts in the freight industry are not reversible decisions. Every American fleet manager who runs the numbers, real numbers, loaded miles, winter range charging availability total cost per mile, arrives at the same place. The J7 wins the spreadsheet, and when a truck wins the spreadsheet, it eventually wins the highway. The question is not whether a 53% diesel engine is real. The question is whether Cummins Packer and the American freight industry will still be setting the efficiency standard when the next generation of truckers signs their first lease. History is not waiting for Detroit to decide.